everybody, and this is Paul here, and I'm going to go over how to make 3-strand cordage by hand with no jigs or any extra tooling needed. This is a natural fiber one, but I'm going to do another example, and you can see it doesn't really matter the material it's made with. These are all 3-strand cords. An example I'm probably going to show is just out of like plastic because it's most common, but you can use natural fibers or synthetic fibers. But what you got is 3-strand cord like this, and you can see the end here is like that, and it will be finished like this on the other end. And although this is a short piece, as you can see with the natural cord, you can make it about as long as you want it. It doesn't really matter, because the method I will be showing will show how to extend the cord. So I'm going to cut a bit, and then I will show you how to start making one with common materials. And in my case, plastic is ubiquitous. It's a man-made material, but it's just like everywhere because it's trash. So I'll show you in a bit. Okay, so as they say, garbage in, garbage out. Or in this case, this garbage is actually kind of useful. It's just strips of plastic from plastic bags. Normally you'd use, like if you were out in nature, a natural material, but you could also combine other materials like fabric and still make cords. So the point here isn't that you have to make a cord or anything. No, it's just like something to do if you're in a situation where you can't buy it, or if you want to make a cord out of a material that is just difficult to come by. So the main thing that when you're making a cord, it doesn't really matter, like you don't have to have a specific material, but what you want are certain qualities to the material. In this case, even though this plastic is just common trash, it's got 3 properties that are pretty good. So if you try to stretch it, it won't break too easily. I mean, it will stretch eventually, but in this case it's not going to break on this test. The other test you want to do is twisting like that, and you can see it doesn't break or splinter or come apart. And the last test is you take a finger and you wrap it around like that, and it doesn't break. If your material passes all 3 of those tests, it will make a good cord. So things like fabric or something, like if you take cloth and cut it in strips like this, it will usually work. And natural materials like roots or bark or whatever you source, I'm sure you've seen other videos on them. But if it passes all 3 of those tests, the better it passes those tests, stretching, twisting, or wrapping without breaking, the better your cord is going to be. So don't be like, oh, I can't find such and such to make a cord. Now you just try different materials and see if it passes those tests, you'll have a good rope. So, on to the next thing. So to start our 3-strand cord, what we're actually going to be doing is following some stuff that most people associate with 2-strand cords. Because what we're doing is we're basically making each strand of the 3-strand cord as a 2-strand cord. So it's hard to explain it other than that. But the reason is it takes up a twist a lot better than just having material loose and trying to keep them as 3 separate strands with material going in that way. So what you do is you make 3 separate 2-strand cords as pieces of one thing, or I don't know how to explain it better, but they take up tension and twist a lot better than just the loose material. So without further ado, we start it like we're going to make a 2-strand cord. Now in this case, I have what I call leaves or sections, and you want to, pardon me, stagger the ends so they're not like overlapping, but this section will be staggered, and then this will be staggered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it like a 2-strand cord, but I'm not going to fold over in the middle. I'm going to keep it open in the middle, and we'll get to that. So what I like to do is take this and even up, find the midpoint and grasp it down towards the midpoint, and keeping these as pairs. So pair it up midpoint and start like you're doing a 2-strand. And it's just twist, twist, over, twist, twist, over, twist, twist, over, twist, twist, over. And you get to a certain point where you want more tension in it and it feels like it's not as tight. I put an extra twist before I go over. So most of the time it will have 2 turns, which is a full 360 for the strands wrapping. And then every now and then I'll put in an extra half twist, so it'll be like, what that does is it keeps the tension on this, so it stays nice and tight. Twist, twist. So once I get enough on there and I feel like it's loose, I'll go 1, 2, 3 and over, and 1, 2, 3 and over. But then I'll go back to 1, 2 and over, 1, 2, and that's just to keep tension on there. And it'll do this when you go back to the 2 twists. It'll kind of relax the tension, but it takes up any slack in there, and it makes it tighter when you do the extra half twist. But you don't do that all the time because you don't really need it. You just do it when it feels like it's getting slack, and it'll make a tighter twist. So I'll continue with that till I get to a certain point, and then I'll cut the video and show you later. Well, thanks to the power of video editing, I saved you from having to watch me do this for the last 5 to 10 minutes. Repeatedly twist, twist, over, twist, twist, over. And you can see I got that much so far. And when you get to a certain point, like where you want to take a break or a rest from it, you don't have to tie it in a full knot and pull it through. What you do is you just loop it over, and you just pull a loop through like this. And this means you can undo it by grabbing this and pulling it to continue again. But for now, what we're going to do is just take this end and loop it through like this and save it for later. And if you got carpal tunnel or something like that that acts up, if you need to take a break, just do it like that. This will keep it from unraveling. In this case, it's not unraveling too bad, but some materials will. And when I was doing this, I was holding it in the hand, so this wasn't really coming apart much. And I'll get on to the next part, and from there we'll start from here. Okay, so right now, I know it's not long on your end, but on my end I took a little break, but right now we have this one cord, or the start of a cord, that you'd think is a 2-strand cord, and we have one pair of strips here to make up a strand, and another pair of strips here to make up a strand. So now we're adding the 3rd pair of strips to make up another strand. And what we're going to do is just tighten this up a little bit in the middle, and then we're going to add this in. So what it will do is it'll make a really neat tight join. But first we'll just do as usual, but working from the other end to tighten it up. Take some of the slack out. You don't have to do it too much, just enough to know that you got it snug, like so. And alright, time to add these two. And just keep them paired together, and yeah, cross them under like so. And you can keep this bunched together, and something like that. Alright, so now you take this free end in this group, the new group, and you do it like so. So now I go over, over, but now I'm continuing to work with the new strand. So it's making a join, and I'm going to work this a little bit. And I'll twist this in and I'll cut, and then you can see how it goes together after I do the cut. Okay, back again after the cut, and I know some people will probably ask, why the hell would anyone want to do this? You could just go buy a rope at the store, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, time is money, but if you got a whole lot of spare time and no money, or you're out in the woods and you're just waiting for your food to cook, or you're watching TV at home or something, and you're not crafting and you want a cord for your craft work or whatever, you want something unique. I mean, because like if you're not using plastic, you might be using a natural material you just can't go to a regular store and buy like right away. Well, you just do it. So, and it's a skill to learn. It's kind of neat, and you can show off to your bushcrafter friends or whatever that you're making a much fancier cord than they know how to make and just whip together. So I showed you, I did the two, like starting off with a 2-strand cord, and I bunched this one into that, and now I have this extra left over here in the middle, so now we're going to make the third part of the strand, and it will be joined. So let's do that. Alright, how do this? 1, 2, and over. I don't know if you're seeing this, but you're seeing how it's joined like right in the middle here. And you can see I looped these over like I showed you earlier, just to temporarily keep it together. And I'll save you watching me twist it for the next 5 minutes, and I'll come back after I do that. Okay, so I got finished extending that out, and as you can see, we got a 3-way join here that isn't going to come apart on you, which is the main point. I'm not going to start the 3-strand twist just yet because I like to have a little bit more on here. So I think I will show you how to do a splice, and this is the same kind of splice you would do for a 2-strand. But since I have it doubled up, it might be a little different than what some people have shown. But in a way I think this is better, because you're having 2 pieces of material on each side. You're going to get a better joint. So, let's start here. And what you want to do is find which leaf or strand or strip or whatever is the shortest. I'm going to put a few more twists under. Yeah, this one is the shortest. So I want this, well, to you it's the other way around, but to me it's on my bottom. So to me it's facing me, and I can grab it here like that. And I want to take a new strand by itself and introduce it into here and splice it in, and give myself something to grab on the thumb like that. Won't matter if this sticks out, this will get cut off. So you just overlap it, pull it tight like that, and start twisting it in like you were doing before, and it gets spliced right in. Do that for a bit. As you can see, this is starting to get short here. So I'm going to do one more set of turns, and then I'm going to splice in the next one. So now this gets spliced in. Alright. Same way. So you can see this is on the opposite side with this pair and this pair, and I get spliced in. So although I have a few extras at the join, it's not going to be a lot, and generally you end up splicing one at a time instead, because right now this is actually 2 at a time, but what happens is you have 4 strands for the cord, you need a little bit more in a join, but you're never joining more than 1/4 of the amount of material in it. Is where if you only did 2, you would always be doing half. So when you're doing it with 2 pairs, you're doing 1/4. So that's a lot less of a weak point for 1/4 to be the join rather than have to be a join, and you get a smoother joint. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but you'll have to trust me on it. So, and I'll just continue on. I don't mind the light too much. It's just one of those LED lights that malfunctions. Can't really do too much about that. Just live with it, I guess. So, as you can see, these little flaps are getting shorter. Normally, I would have them staggered more, or I'd prefer to have them staggered more. If they're evened up, you're going to want to do at least one side or the other. In this case, I'll just start early because they're even. If they were staggered, I'd go with the shorter one. So. Pardon the little delay here, but I'll just go in here, splice in. So now I have 2 here, and even though this is a little stub, I still technically have 2 here. So twist over. Yeah, it's getting a little thick there. If they were staggered more, it would be better. But it's still better than what you'd have if you had only one strand on each side. Just take my word on that. Okay, now I gotta pair this up. And pair. I'm gonna show this, but my camera cuts out because it only records in 5-minute or 5-minute intervals, because it's not really designed to shoot video. It's designed to shoot still photos. But I just kind of have to deal with what I've got, and I didn't realize it cut off. But I just wanted to show the splice. It's actually pretty strong, and it ain't going to come apart unless you rip the whole thing apart. Because it's still plastic, so you can do it if you really want. But in terms of the strength of the material is concerned, it ain't coming apart in the material. And I'm just going to clean up the splice. But as you can see, I had 2 strands on each side, and when I finished up, I added an extra pair as these little tabs got shorter, and I kept it paired up, so you can see there's still a pair on each side. And then same thing if you want to extend it even further. We'll get to that. And it's still got the other 2, and I'm going to extend these out in a similar fashion before I start working on doing a 3-strand twist. So, we'll catch up with that and get you a 3-strand twist. I've got this whole thing spliced together on all 3 legs now, so it's spliced. And as you can see, 3 strands is 3 times the work. So if you want to be quick, you're going to want to do a double strand, but if you want something a little bit nicer or a little bit showier, you can still do the 3-strand like I'm showing. So yeah, it is a bit more work. You missed out on all the fun because I just cut the video out when I did all the twisting. And what's neat is if you do stuff with colors on this. Right now I don't have the materials different colors, but if you were doing this like with leather or something, and you had like red, green, blue, or red, white, blue, or something on each, spliced in on each one, you could do some really neat patterns. But enough of that. I'm going to show you how to start the 3 strands. So as you can see, here's the twist. You twist it one way, it gets looser, and you twist it the other way, it gets tighter. What you're going to want to do is start twisting each one so it gets tighter. And the nice thing about this is that it's not going to come apart unless this material is too fragile and it comes apart on its own, which if you're making a good cord, it shouldn't. You just twist each one tighter and it will start to fold. So twist tighter, just a little bit tighter, a little bit tighter, and try to repeat from the bottom. And it's starting to fold like this. So twist. You gotta twist each strand so it gets tighter, and work from the bottom, and as you can see, it is starting to do this. So once you tighten up each strand, it will fold over and start forming the 3-strand cord. But it's not quite all there is to it. I mean, that's a lot of it, but after you get to a certain point, not quite there yet. Just keep twisting tighter. Okay, like this. Alright, so once you get it sort of tight, what you're going to want to do is start untwisting it. Hard to explain. But you pull it, and these get even tighter still. And you redo it. And you got to keep reworking it as you go along. And that way it doesn't come apart so easy. And that adds extra work, but when you go to untwist it, it ain't going to come apart because that puts so much more tension on it. So you got to keep doing that. So it is a little bit tedious, but it makes the finished product a lot better. So you twisted the part this way, then you retwist it as you were doing to get it to start. And that's how you do it by hand. There's no jig, that's why it's the hand method. Because a jig would take all these at even tension and stuff, and when you're doing it by hand, you kind of have to do the unfold. Okay, so if you're doing a 3-strand rip, I got back and it took a while. So that's a bit tedious, like I said. And you twist it up to get some twists on it, and you kind of pull it apart to put more tension on it, and you retwist it, and you keep doing that as you go along. And this I noticed something, because I don't always run into this, but if you do the splices all at the same distance out on each strand, and if they match up, you get bulges like right here. I don't know if it's that obvious, but that's where all the splices were, and all the splices lined up. So if you can help it, you want the splices staggered, just like when you splice in these things, you want them staggered. Same here, you want them staggered, and then you won't get this huge bulge like it swallowed another string or something. And also, when I tie these off, instead of tying a knot like I do with these strands, I usually just get another strand of material and tie an overhand knot around it. So, and now that I reached kind of the end of this, it's possible to keep on splicing just like you did earlier, or I did earlier, but you get the idea. You loosen this up and you pop this open, and then you splice in right here, and you do the same for the other two, and you can just continue it on to however long you want it. If you had all the time in the world, you can make it infinite long, but I don't. I'm going to cut it short pretty soon, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to knot this off and cut it off, and I'll come back to you and show you how to wrap the end of it to have a finished piece. But right now I'm just doing it short, but if you want a longer rope on a wrapped end, will keep the end tight like it is on this, but it's going to be wrapped with a more string. Okay, so what I did is I got this up to where it could put an overhand knot in here. Just keep it tight. And generally when you want to finish the end, you want to go, well in this case it's going to be an inch or about 3 centimeters, something like that, past where you actually want it to end. So when you're making this, you could do a little bit extra to where you really want to finish it, so you can do the wrapping part. So this should be pretty simple. It's just a type of wrap. I've seen it. And also you want to make sure this is about as tight as you can get. So make sure that's tight. If you want to take any slack out of it, stretch it, get it tight. There you go. Because if this is able to tighten up when you have this wrapped on it, it might get loose again. So you want to make sure it's pretty tight to start out with. So then you have a little bit extra, and you grab it like so, and then you just wrap, and you start wrapping it a whole bunch of times, like this. You want them even up, and after you get a couple on there, You snug it by cinching on here. This plastic stretches. I'm just using the same material I made this, the inner strand, but this plastic wasn't so stretchy I'd be able to pull this really tight here. The stretching is not exactly a bad quality for this. It's just you want it on there where you know it's not going anywhere. And you want it bunched together too. So you want it really snug on there, bunched together. Now it's kind of like the same as people would do when wrapping fishing lures, but rope, it's a bigger scale. So you just tight. After you get to a certain point, like 5 or 6 wraps, you do this, which is bring it around, and it's a bit clumsy here. You loop like that, and what I'm going to do is try to get 5 or 6 wraps in there. And you know what, it's fidgety and it's probably going to take longer than the camera will want to record, but I'll come back when I get wraps inside here and I'll just show you what to do next. But you just keep wrapping it, and this little tag in here you usually tend to want to go over it. So I'll do that and come back. This is quicker than I thought it would be, but I did 6 wraps. And keep in mind when you loop it under, it's in the same direction as these wraps. So when these wraps come around, when you come back in, you're going around the same way. And that's so you can fold this under here. And what you're doing is you're keeping this a bit slack, but you're going on the inside the same way. And then what you do is you take this and go this way, and then you just continue wrapping somewhat snug, but not too tight, very snug, in the same direction until this finishes up. And you're kind of continuing that other wrap while you're doing this. And if this pulls or bunches, you can kind of work it around. You kind of want to keep this strand in here flat. This is where this goes over. And you can even twist it over. It's a little hard to see because all this is the same color, but you get the idea. And once you come back to where it evens up like this, that's when you pull this snug. And you see how it's tightening up. So you just start pulling it snug. Some of it will wrap under just like that other piece did. And you pull this tight. I can't get it too tight because this plastic is a bit stretchy, as I said earlier. But nonetheless, it is snug. And then what I usually do instead is, some people will finish it like this, but I'll continue with another set of wraps going this way, same kind of thing, but overlapping that first set of wraps I just did overhand, and that tends to lock it in. So I'll just do more of these, and I'll come back when I get it done that way. So as you can see, I finished doing that extra set of wraps. You got the knot here I was using to hold it, and the extra little bit. Now this is getting tight. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So you just clip this off. And that off. Now it's a little hard to see because this color of the plastic doesn't really show much contrast. And you see this big old knot. I'm going to cut off the big old knot. And you don't want to cut it right into that. You want to leave like a little bit extra. So just like a little bit right there. And then that way it shouldn't come apart. And even when this sprays out, it's still going to be smaller than a knot like this, and it should even up with the end. So as you can see how tight this end is here, this isn't getting much fatter than the other end. So that's why you do wrapping, and it keeps it neat. So now you know how to make a rope 3-strand. No jig involved, just a lot of twisting, a lot of time, and then you finish it, and there you go. All good. Not much to it.